Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tajon Davis, and today we got Mr. Phillip Douglas with his amazing story. I'm definitely excited to hear this one. If you didn't know, that he is the founder of MACM, has been doing this for years now, and he has given a lot of opportunities to young men and women in the community. So, Phil, whenever you're ready, brother.
Right on. Thank you, man, for this opportunity. First of all, I'm a little nervous. I'm gonna go ahead and say that up front. I ain't think putting this together that our guests would be nervous when they actually share their stories. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. And if you don't mind me, I got a few notes over here that I'm looking at, so just don't mind me if I do happen to look over. I was born January 7th, 1984, Denver, Colorado, Denver General, Eastside, baby, to the core. From 1984 to about 1990, I have no recollection of anything that happened in my life during that time period. So that 6-year period, I have no memories of what happened. I do know that during that 6-year period, I was in houses that got batter-rammed because the people who were living there was doing illegal stuff. So again, I was, from 0 to 6 at that time. So in 1990, that's when I moved with my grandma. My grandma, we stayed on 34th and Gaylord, again, Eastside, baby. And my grandma, she took in, it was me, my older brother, my younger brother, 2 of my older cousins, my older sister, my uncle and my mom was in there too, and my grandpa, my younger brother as well. So there was 11 of us total in that one single parent family household. But that was when it felt like family was the most, that's when family was the tightest back then. We used to fight so much, but I didn't realize at that time how much family would mean. So, quick fast, my grandma, she threw us right into church. That was the first thing that she did as soon as we had moved with her, well, she threw us right into church. Church, it wasn't something that we wanted to do, so I keep it at that. And we're still following the timeline. So again, in 1990, I wasn't staying with my mom because during that time frame, she was, there was the combination. I always say there was the combination of the two. And I look at cocaine and then I look at a pot, and that combination put together crack cocaine. So during that time frame, when she wasn't in and out of prison, she was selling drugs, she was selling coke, she was selling stuff like that. And when she was in and out of prison, I developed anger. I developed such it was a very evil spirit. When I moved with my grandmother, she was able to cage that animal that was inside of me. My pops, I ain't know too much about my dad growing up. I do know from stories that, folks told me that he was the one that potty trained me, so if y'all don't mind, I'm gonna share a little poem with y'all, because that was one way that I got to vent and stuff like that. So this poem right here I call Burning Thoughts. So what that my mom sold bops and OD'd off the same old rocks, and my pops start with straight shots and then pop bottles, but couldn't stop. You see, he drank so much his body rot, and now he sleeps with worms and crops. And I weep for my burning thoughts, and I think, like, what if he was to show me how to box or figure out ways to bob and weave cops? Instead, every time I saw him, he gave me a buck. What the fuck? Now I see it as a child support layaway payment. For every time he is laid away on the pavement, he needed his child to support all his statements until he reawakens, sober, just so he can get mistaken again. You see, first mistake, using the money that clothed me, feed me, treat me, to buy his booze. You see, mistake 2, how could you let me watch you? So I think like I supported his habit. I just let him have at it. No ifs, ands, or buts, just so what? So I think like, what would life be like if you stayed away from the light? Would you stay on the same path and continue to wrong your rights, or would you right your wrongs? Because I've been a bastard too long. But I'm not alone. This is just the same song. And I think like, what was it about me that you didn't like? Or was my mother the reason why you took a hike? You didn't want to kick it or chill or just share a bite. I wanted to kick it and chill, despite the wrongs I've been handed, the beatings you landed. I'd do anything to call somebody a pops. Pops, you see. The burning that's continually stirring in my head and the thoughts that's yearning for an answer is unsaid. Only one person can answer all these questions, but he's dead. So I think like my thoughts will continue to burn in my head. That's burning thoughts. All right. Y'all gotta go like that. You know what I mean? I gotta share some snaps or something. Sure. That's so with burning thoughts, it comes a whole lot of questions that I have absolutely no answers to. That's why I call them burning thoughts, because those answers, those questions will forever burn, you know. In 1991, my aunt, she had passed from AIDS. And the story behind that, you know, my aunt, she found out at the last minute that her best friend that she grew up with, that she was sharing needles with, would have full-blown AIDS. So by the time she had found out, she was already in a hospice, you know what I mean? So the only memory that I have of my aunt is in a hospice, you know, us going up there to see her and stuff like that. She had passed in July 1991. My grandma, again, my grandmother, she was a great woman, great, smart, all that put together. You know, one thing that she did was she knew that she needed to keep getting us into stuff. On top of church, she also put us into soccer. You know, I started playing soccer in 1990, and that was like my very first love, you know, was soccer. My second love was fighting, you know, again, that evil spirit that I grew up with, and that included a whole lot of fighting. Very rebellious, very, the energy that I had was, you know, I always had a problem with authority. So, and I put that on, you know, me not being able to have a pops and stuff like that to set me straight, per se. In elementary school, that's where my journey on the school to prison pipeline began. I started at Gilpin Elementary, then I went to Whittier, then I went to Columbine, and I ended up going to Carson Elementary, and that was the first time I had got suspended. And it was, so the story behind that was, in school, you know, I would always identify a teacher who I didn't like. All right, so it would be, we're going from one class to another class, and you know me, I'm running down the hallway, you know, to get to the class, acting like I'm late. I'm pretending like I don't see the teacher, and at the last minute, I turn my head and I boom, run right into the teacher. All right, this is elementary-year-old Phil just not knowing what's what. So I do that one time, you know, the teachers, they all look at, they see everything go down, you know, they come check on me, they say, oh, you all right? You all right? In the back of my head, I'm like, oh my God, you know what I mean? So I get up, everything was all right. Next time, same thing happens, you know, do it again. Pow, crack. They starting to get on now, like, okay, this is not no accident anymore, you know, for the same teacher to get caught. So the third time, you know, they had suspended me. So that was the first time I had got suspended. I've always loved reading. I always loved to read. I always loved to write. I've always knew that, you know, reading is knowledge and knowledge is power. And, you know, everything that we can't find, everything that we seek, you know, we just need to open up the right books. And you know, that's that, open up the right books. So in 1995 to 1998 was, that was my middle school years. And I had went to Cole Middle School. Cole, it was, you know, again, it was a certain era, it was a certain aura about growing up on the east side. It was like certain things you must do is a rites of passage, per se. You know, the first time I had smoked weed was I was 13. You know, that seemed like another rites of passage. The first time I had shot a gun, I was 13. Again, another rites of passage. It was a whole lot of stuff that we had did on the east side that it seemed like that was the rites of passage. So during that time, now my mom, she wasn't in and out of prison. At this moment, she was in and out of the hospital. You know, I didn't know what was what. I was still blind. I didn't know what was going on at that time. Also during that time, that's when I first learned how to play chess. All right, I learned in the 7th grade. From Cole, I did get suspended from Cole too. So I got suspended because I had found that was my story. I didn't find no knife. I had bought a knife from Ross. You know, you was able to buy knives from Ross. You was able to go into the pawn shops, buy knives. I was infatuated with knives and stuff like that. And I've always looked grown. I was buying alcohol in the liquor stores ever since I was 15 years old. So an ID was never a question. So again, me getting suspended in elementary school, and then again, me getting suspended in middle school. I went to high school. So now I'm in high school. I'm at Manual High School. This is 1998 to 2002. That is when I'm at Manual. To be a Tebow back then to what it is right now, completely different things. Then it was very high on, you know, pride. It was very high on, you know, what it means to actually be a T-boat and so forth and so on. Then I would say our GPA, our average GPA at that time, my class, the class of 2002, was a 13.5. That was the average GPA for ACT scores. Now the average, I don't know what the average, I haven't checked this year's, but I know the year before, it was at about a 1920, you know what I mean? So, but what it means to be a T-boat is so watered down now. You know, it seemed like the youth do not carry that legacy and stuff like that, but they got the scores up, you know, so at what cost do we lose? Middle school, I got suspended for having a knife. That was that, you know what I mean? High school at Manual, I had got suspended as well for getting caught again with another knife. I had got expelled. So this was my freshman year. I had all A's and 1 B. And the end of that year, I had ended with all F's and 1 D. So going into my sophomore year, I was already behind. I love, you know, my love for football, my love for soccer, you know, has shifted from soccer to football because the whole environment has shifted. There weren't any Black folks on the soccer teams. You know, there was a lot of Mexicans on the soccer teams, and they were speaking Spanish, and that's one thing that had pushed me away from it. And till this day, I have regret that decision because when I was in the 8th grade, I was getting recruited to play soccer by college soccer coaches and by college teams and stuff like that in the 8th grade. So that's one thing that I do, you know, regret in terms of you know, decisions and stuff like that. This is 98. Going into my sophomore year, you know, my mom, she had I was still living, I call it, in a sense, I call them pipe dreams. You know, I was blind to what was going on, and it was almost like I didn't want to know what was going on. Go ahead, Day Day, I see you got a question.
So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, would your grandma like take you to church and stuff? You think that was like a sign of you like to calm down with the fighting and stuff?
Oh yes, of course. On top of many other things, you know, that was one of the things that she saw, you know, off top was just the evil spirit, the fighting, all that, the sass that came with me because I was fresh out of the streets. You know, my grandma, her favorite story, she would always tell people that, you know, she had got me out the streets, but how she ended it, I'll always remember how it ends. I never remember the full story. I just know at the end, she would always say, it took me 5 baths to clean the dirt off his ass. You know what I mean? And that's how it ended every time. I mean, we were literally street babies. You know, if it rained and the puddles that had accumulated on the corners on the east side, that's what we played and swam in. You know, me and my brother, we was young and running them streets. We didn't have no guidance per se. You know, we was just making sure we was made sure that we was fed and that we had some place over our head. You know, the clothes that we had, I had hand-me-downs, and my brother, he had clothes from his pops. His dad was helping take care of him. You know what I mean? And I thank God to this day for Don. You know, R.I.P. You know, Don, he was one of the, you know, he was my brother's dad, and he came and took my brother with him to learn how to do electrician work. So every time he came and picked my brother up, he came and picked me up as well. And the thing is, he didn't have to give me no money, but every time he paid my brother for the work, he gave me a couple of dollars as well. You know, when it came to Christmas and when Kiki would go over to his dad's house, again, that's my brother's dad, you know, I'm right there with him. I didn't realize, it didn't dawn on me that we didn't have the same dad because I didn't have that, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking that whatever he's getting from his dad, I'm supposed to get too. And on the strength of Don, you know, he showed up just like that. He showed up just like that. So, yeah, I will say, yeah, that is part of the reason too why my grandma, she had put us into church. So, so with that too, again, I still firmly believe that, you know, I didn't want to know what was going on with my mom, you know, so, it was crazy. Fast forwarding a little bit, right around the time I had got my first job at Youth Biz, you know, my grandma, she had found my mom's kit, you know what I mean? Her work kit. And it had her crack pipe in it. It had 3 cotton balls. It had like a bent up spoon, and it had some string in it. You know, me, I'm in high school. You know, you hear the crackhead jokes. That was when we was growing up, and they had that song, "Your Mama's on Crack Rock." You know, they had a song and talking stuff about folks whose moms was on crack and stuff like that. So I didn't want to accept that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna share another poem with y'all before we get going. You know, this one right here. This one right here is what we call this one right here is called Pipe Dreams. All right. I sat and watched it take everything. The combo of the two. You see, it took what I call brand new. You see, Mon Dukes had pipe dreams, dope fiend. Didn't have the greens, but still achieved by all means. I mean, to achieve the next high shit. Some do crying, some spread thighs, some beg, lie, and die, but why? You see, pipe dreams will make you sell what you buy in the blink of an eye. Sugar will turn to shit real quick. Happy homes ain't happy no more. Smiles and no show. School won't go, because my folks never cared. Fucked around and missed dare. But the homies dared me to break in that garage, no mirage, so I took the steel rod and broke the padlock. I was a tad shocked when I got caught, figures, because I brought the hots to the spot. But Mon Dukes ain't asked where it was got, because she was too busy having pipe dreams. You see, pipe dreams are nightmares brought to life. Zombies walking around in broad daylight. And pipe dreams, as it might seem, is a nice scheme to live life cream. You know, cash rules everything around me cream. But that's if you're on the other side of the pipe. You see, some would rather serve the habit than get served to have it. And pipe dreams will bring the worst out of folks. And I ain't talking GDs, but God damn. I never had a real mother do the pipe dreams. I mean, she still loved me unconditionally, but with conditions. So when she was offering her missions, I played wishing she would stop tripping, wishing she would start living. But instead, she stopped living, flatline, no beat skipping. So I cursed the highest being and said, fuck the world, and I meant it. Hate flowed in every vein, and I ain't try to resist it. I was young and filled with anger just to ask for repentance. I wanted to be alone, no assistance. You see, pipe dreams took my home and the love that comes with it. So what's a youngin' supposed to do except run with it? You see, I decided to live life, not the life from pipe dreams, live life longevity. You know what I mean? That's pipe dreams. I gotta go like this, you gotta go like this. You know, I ain't getting some snaps around here. All right. That's pipe dreams. When my mom, she had died in 1999, I still remember the day like it was yesterday. You know, it's one of those days that won't ever change, won't ever go away. You replay it every day. You replay it every day. I was asleep on the couch. Go ahead, Aujaa Simone. So you had a question? Okay.
Sorry, it was loud upstairs. But what motivated you to get into poetry?
It wasn't motivation to say the least. It was a direction that I was given. You know, and my teacher at the time, he was one of my favorite teachers. His name was George Stevenson. He had saw how everything shifted, how my whole attitude and everything changed from that happening. He didn't know what was going on. All he did was gave me a pen, gave me a pad, and told me to write. So poetry is what came out. And the very first poem that I had wrote was called Fuck the World. You know, that was the very first poem that I had wrote. And it was just a way for me to, you know, release. I never knew how to deal with grieving. I never knew how to deal with death. And poetry was just one of those avenues, one of those positive avenues that I have that helps me release my emotions. You know, I don't have to share it with nobody, but it's a good release of those emotions, and it's raw, you know. So I hope that answered your question. You know, when my mom, she had died, it was, you know, I was asleep on the couch, and I'm a real light sleeper. So I remember hearing the phone ring and my grandpa getting up to go answer the phone. He said, okay, all right, I'll let her know. Boom, he hung up the phone, went outside and told my grandma what was on the phone. So he told my grandma that my mom was in the hospital again. So I heard that part, got up, went back to sleep. Phone ring again, you know, it's the hospital. You know, my grandpa, he answered the phone. He said, hello. He said, oh no. Oh no. All right, I'll tell her. So then he went over and told my grandpa, I'm up at that time. I am up at that time. You know, this is the first time that I've ever seen my grandma cry. You know, my grandma, that's my ace, that's my bone, that's my rock, that's my nerve, that's my, you know, so when I saw my grandma cry, it was like a different, it was like a different realization that came over me. You know, it's like when you realize that Superman could get hurt type of shit. You know what I mean? So I see her crying, walking back to the house. You know, I see her crying, walking back to the house. And yeah, excuse me for a minute. I see her crying, walking back to the house. And, you know, she's in tears. She's just bawling. You know what I mean? And she, at that point, I don't know, I kind of put two and two together, but I'm still like, you know, kind of drowsy, kind of sleep, whatever. So I get up and I go to work. I go to youth biz. They don't know nothing. They don't know nothing that happened. I put it all together, so I know what was going on. You know, so I get to youth biz and I'm working. You know, they have to call up their youth biz and tell my supervisor that my mom just died. They don't know. The thing is too, one thing that I've done very well and that I've developed at a very young age was the ability to hide pain behind one of them. You know, a smile can hide and so much pain, so much hurt. You know, you can put so much of that behind a smile. And I'm at work, happy-go-lucky. You know, they don't know I just lost my mom, so they send me home, and you know, I'm dealing with it and stuff like that. So, this is the time too. My mom, she had died July 7th, 1999. At this time, my older brother, he had just got convicted. So he was in like one of them youth detention centers at the time. So when my mom had passed, that's where he was at dealing with that. Um, again, it was, you know, me having a direction and having the best route to deal with death. I never knew how to. I was working at Youth Biz in 1999, teaching other youth how to, you know, run a business, teaching them leadership skills. And I started this when I was a freshman, you know, 14 years old at Manual. By the time I had graduated from Manual, I was running the entire silkscreen printing business. So the shirts that y'all see with this kind of ink on it, this is actually ink, not paint. This is the kind of shirt that I made. I actually made this. Yeah, I actually made this one too. So from 1999 till about, I would even say to present, that was when my older brother, he was on his journey on the school to prison pipeline, but he started a lot earlier than 1999. He's just been locked up and convicted within that time frame. So from 1999 to right now to present, I would say my older brother has been out of prison for about three years. I'll say about 3 years, from 1999 to 2020. He has probably been out for about 3 years. Right now, he's serving he's in prison for a 97-year sentence. He's serving a 97-year sentence right now. I was at Manual 2 my freshman year when I lost my virginity. Said that to say, hold on to your virginity. Hold on to that, because it is precious. I did not have nobody speaking how precious your virginity is to me when I was that age. So if that was something that I had somebody speaking into me, I truly believe that I would have held on to it, because dudes nowadays, they are after it. You know, that's what they want, you know, so hold on to it, hold on to it. I had got the Daniels Fund Scholarship. And I had got the Kappa Alpha Psi Scholarship. I graduated from Manual 2002, got the Daniels Fund. And again, the journey to get the Daniels Fund in, it was a whole lot, I would say it was a lot more challenging than it is now. And it was a 2-year process. And there was plenty of 8 hours, you know, little trainings, all day oh man, it was terrible. You know, you had to have read Bill Daniels' book in order to get that scholarship. And still to this day, I have not read that book. I got the Kappa Alpha Psi Scholarship. Funny story about the Kappa Alpha Psi Scholarship. In order to get that scholarship, you know, they truly pushed you to pledge Kappa. My problem with pledging Kappa was, you know, their sign was something like that, either like that. I don't know what their sign was, but I'm an Eastside baby to the core. Their colors was red and white. Their sign was I was so closed-minded that I didn't see the connections that you build long-term through a fraternity. You know, I was so Eastside bound that I'm like, okay, I just take your money, I take the scholarship, but I ain't pledging no Kappa. You know what I mean? That was the last thing I wanted to pledge. So what I did wanted to pledge was IOTA, because their sign was this right here. Hood as shit, you know what I mean? But it's stupid as hell. But I did get a football scholarship to play at Baylor University, and I got a scholarship to play at Fort Lewis. So I was awarded the Daniels Fund Scholarship as well, on top of the Kappa Alpha Psi Scholarship. So I had to choose between Baylor, or that was in Texas, or Fort Lewis, which was in Colorado. My grandma, she wanted me to stay in Colorado for 2 years, you know, before I moved out. And me, I was on, you know, I was so tired of listening to grandma. I was so tired and wanted to get away, you know, that I wanted to go to Texas, but I'm like, you know what, she want me to stay in town in Colorado for 2 years. All right, I'll stay in Colorado. So I chose the furthest school from Denver. If you was a researcher, you'll see that Durango is the furthest school from Denver. All right, and so I chose Fort Lewis. My grandma, she used to write me a whole lot of letters when I was up there in school, just breaking it down to me, letting me know, because for some reason, I don't know why I thought that she had it out for me. You know, I don't know why I thought that the money that she's been saving for me and been taking out of my checks from youth biz and putting to the side, that she was spending that money and stuff like that. I don't know why I thought that my grandmother wasn't for me. You know what I mean? So that's what it came down to. And, you know, it took me being at Fort Lewis, receiving them letters, getting her, you know, to tell it to me like that, for me to truly understand that she has always been for me. This is now 2003. You know, it's July 15th, 2003. You know, I'm in school. You know, I still can't talk about my grandma, you know what I mean, without crying and stuff like that. But, you know, my grandma, she had died in 2003 in July. You know, again, if y'all have heard so much that I've said so far about my grandma, y'all know that that's my baby right there. That's who, you know what I mean, I contribute anything and all things good, you know, is to my grandma. Behind her death, you know, I started smoking like the trains do. I mean, nonstop, all day, every day. Go ahead, Dede. I see you got a question.
When did you realize that she was just trying to help you save money?
I mean, you know, in the beginning when I first started working at Youth Biz, she let me know that, but then it's you know, it's a young mentality. You know, it's you're not seeing things clearly, because they say money is the root to all evil. All right. I don't believe that it just manifests that. All right. Like I said, since the beginning, since the moment my grandma took me in, you know what I mean? I should have known from that moment that she's been for us, for me specifically. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So when she had passed, you know, I had drowned all my hurt, all my sorrow, everything behind smoking. You know, that's how I'm, you know, dealing with my pain. I would get high, come down, get high again, come down, because I ain't trying to face that pain. You know, me not realizing that pain is camped out. It's in a tent waiting for me to just come down. It ain't going nowhere. That pain is waiting on me. So I had to come down eventually. Tank, I saw you had a question. What's up?
Okay, so I have two questions. When you went to college, besides for sports and stuff, what was your major like? What did you want to study? What was it that you wanted to do when you went to college? And then two, did it ever click in your mind that your grandmother was going to be forever with you, no matter physically or, you know, emotionally where she's at now? Did like that motivate you to be a better man that you are today?
You know, it's you know, when you get older, you realize that. You know what I mean? And just the life that you live, the lessons that you put out there, you realize that what she was teaching you when you were younger, what your folks are teaching y'all now, you don't realize it right now how valuable it is. But 20 years from down the road, you start to realize that those lessons that you were taught are starting to come out. You know what I mean? And it's excuse me for a minute. You know, my grandma, she was you know, there was no way for me to deal with that, because even when my mom had passed, I was the one in the family telling everybody to stay strong. You know, I was the one in the family that's trying to keep us all together type shit. So I remember it was, you know, the day of her funeral. That was the day that I had broke down. That was the day that I had actually cried. You know, I had buttoned up the last button to my shirt underneath my suit, and that's when it had hit me. You know what I mean? So it was the same thing when my grandma had passed. Yeah, man. But in school, you know, I had started out, you know, because I was a football major. You know, my counselor at the time, she had put all sports majors into an exercise science degree. And at that time, I had absolutely no idea what an exercise science degree could get you. You know, I had absolutely no idea that at that point that was nothing that I wanted to do. So I changed my major 5 different times when I was in school, and I transferred schools 5 different times as well. So so my first transfer from Fort Lewis was in 2005. And it was crazy because I was already in the process of moving back home because at that time, you know, when my grandma died and my little brother and my grandpa, they were the only ones at the house by themselves. So at that time, I wasn't able to reach home. So I'm calling home and nobody's answering. I'm already nervous. I don't know what's going on. That was the first time in my lifetime that I called that number, 295-3903, and nobody picked up. So I started to get word around that my little brother, that he was starting to try to join a gang. You know, my older brother, he was already one of the OGs and founders of Trey 5 Outlaws. You know, so it skipped me and went to my little brother. You know, I saw how dumb gang banging is. I see how, you know, it's you couldn't pay me to do what the next man tell me to do because they tell me to do it. You can't pay me to leave the decisions that I have up to the next person. You know, it's again, I have an authority problem. I can't have no big homie. You can't big homie me. You know, so it's always been my problem. I don't know if it's a problem, but that's always been an issue. And, you know, I remember specifically too, it was a time at school, I'm gonna tell y'all, my roommate at the time, he was a blood. All right, we were, if you split our room down the middle, because that's what we did, we had our dressers right in the middle of our room. On his side, he had a red rug, a red blanket, red pillowcase, a red curtain on this side of the window. And you look on mine, I got my blue rug, my blue curtain, my blue pillow, my blue everything on my side of the window. So, but he was still to this day, you know, I would put my trust in him than, you know, one of these regulars out here. You know what I mean? So, he was the weed man. You know, but at that time, there was no weed on the campus. There was a drought. So the RA, you know, when y'all go to college, they have RAs and RDs. They said, you know, they like the police in dorms. They said that they had smelled weed coming from our room. And that was bull at the time because we didn't have no weed. We didn't have access to no weed. We wasn't the only ones that was in the rooms smoking. Of course, we used to burn out, but at that time, that wasn't us. My mind was already made up. So, you know, what I did was I had took that charge. You know, I had took that charge because I was already getting ready to transfer back home so I can be closer to home. So even though I know it wasn't us smoking, you know, I said it was us. You know what I mean? I know for a fact that it was that it wasn't us. But so I ended up getting kicked out of Fort Lewis. They ended up kicking me out of college. So elementary, I got suspended. Middle school and high school, I both got expelled for knives. And in college, I got kicked out of college. So my Daniels Fund scholarship was at jeopardy at that time. I had to write a letter, get reinstated, tell them what was going on, why this, that, and the third. And I let them know like why I decided to take that charge, because if my roommate, if he had got anything drug related, he would have lost his football scholarship. And I felt like my bounce back was a lot more, you know, it was a lot more easier than his, because right now he's in prison serving a life sentence without parole for an attempted murder. You know what I mean? And that's another story too. So I transferred to Metro, and then from there I had my major. I had changed my major to criminology. It was criminology at that time, and that was from 2005 to about 2007. I wanted to transfer to UCD, but they didn't let me. They said that since the classes that I took at Metro and the classes that I took at Fort Lewis was not rigorous enough, then I could not get into UCD. So I'm still going to school. I'm at Metro. I got my first 4.0 GPA, you know, and then I needed some other classes from CCD because I'm in line with my new major, was criminology. And I know some of my classes that I had, that I needed, was being offered for free at CCD. So again, I transferred to CCD from Metro. My major is still criminology, and I added in a literature minor, I believe. And I had an A. I still have my AGPA there. And then UCD finally decided to let me in. That's a long story short. So during that time as well, my older cousin, he had any kind of drugs that came through Colorado from, I would say, 2002 to 2005, he had some kind of touch in. And when I had got home, you know, I'm starting to see firsthand now that my little brother, he's not just trying to gangbang. He's like 10 toes into it. He's really out here on some dummy missions. So we're getting into it all the time. It's almost like he don't even want to listen to me. So it gets to the point where my grandpa, he says, son, I think you might have to get him. So I'm at home, I pick my little brother up. I'm fighting my little brother like he's one of these dudes out in the streets. I'm kicking him on the ground, all this. I'm on top of him, working him like he's just a random. My grandpa physically have to lift me up off of him. And that same day, my older cousin, he had called me, the one I just told y'all about. He had said, Cuzzo. I said, what's up? He said, I need your help, man. I need you to come out here and stay with me. I said, all right. I said less, you know what I mean? I didn't even say, I said less. So I packed me up a little suitcase, had a couple of outfits in it, and I packed up my PlayStation, you know what I mean? Because that had to go with me too. So I moved out there to Green Valley. It was a big house, you know, two-story type of, you know, crib, big backyard, big dog, small dog. He had a bull mastiff, and he had a little Jack Russell. The thing is, he told me, he said, look, Cuzzo, this is what I need you to do. I need you to take Kyrie to and from school, help him with his homework, take him to and from his mom's house, help him with his homework, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, that's no problem. Back in my head, I'm like, shouldn't you be doing this? You his daddy. What he was doing in the streets, he didn't want to come back. He didn't want anything to come back to his house. So I obliged. You know, every day I took Kyrie to school, to football practice, help him with his homework in the evening time. And when we was doing homework and getting ready for the next day in the evening, you know, that's when his dad was out and about. We never saw him in the evening time. And when Kyrie was at school and I was at work during the daytime, his dad was home asleep. So we had different operating hours. It was one time, my older cousin, we were driving. He told me, he said, Cuzzo, turn left right here. So I turned left. I used to drive for him too. At that time, I'm still working with Youth Biz and I'm still in school, all right? But I'm running with my older cousin. Mind you, any kind of drugs that came through Colorado at that time, he had some kind of touch in. So I turned left. He said, all right, turn right here. All right, I turned right. He told me to make a U-turn. Made a U-turn. Then he said, all right, look out of the back of look in your rear view. Look in your rear view and then turn left. I turned left, then I looked in my rear view. He said, you see that Great Pacifica? He said, make another left. I made another left. And sure enough, that Great Pacifica was right behind us. So it came down to the point, my cousin, he said, look, cousin, I need you to go back and stay with grandpa. I got a bad feeling something bad's about to happen. He had already got robbed by 2 of his homies. You know, what I mean by that is his homies came back and told him that they got jammed up by the police, that the police took their work. And the next week they came with some 28s on their cars, you know, dipped out. They got all new everything. But they expect my cousin to believe that, you know, my cousin, he was never the type to trip. I remember when somebody had stole his rims off of his Navigator, he just left the car on the blocks how they left it and went and got a Cadillac Escalade with 26s or something on them. You know what I mean? That was how he came back and got back at him. But he said, I need you to go back and stay with grandpa. I got a bad feeling something bad's about to happen. So I went back and stayed with my grandpa. This is probably about a week later. This April 26, 2007. I hear a loud bang downstairs. This is like 5 o'clock in the morning. Mind you, I'm still working at youth biz. I'm still in school. I'm staying with my grandpa again, the house that we grew up on. Loud bang downstairs. I don't know what's going on, you know, so I'm half asleep. So I go downstairs. In the house, we had a wall that had a mirror on it. And if you look in the mirror, you can see what was going on in the back. So I look in the mirror and I see my grandpa, my little brother, was downstairs on the floor, like sprawled out. I'm getting ready to go back down there to see what's going on. And I just see a dude turn up the stairs with an assault rifle. So I run back into my room. Underneath my bed, I had one of them old school bolt action rifles. I actually bent down and I was getting ready to pull it out of his bag. But then I said, you know what, if I do that, they gonna chop me in half. So I put my hands up, you know, they came and put handcuffs on me. You know, I had one sock on, you know, I'm in my drawers, it's early, all right, that's how they come. So they come, and the thing is, the dude, he said, let's get a picture so we can identify me. So he had put a picture right next to me. We're gonna say this is the picture. He had looked at the picture, looked at me, looked at the picture, looked at me. He said, yeah, this is the right guy. He was holding up a picture of my older cousin when he was like 16 years old. My grandpa, he was right there. He happened to see it. My grandpa was like, no, you got the wrong one. You got the wrong one. That's not him. That's not him. So they still take me down. But before we go down, you know, we make like 5 other stops. And each stop, we loaded up. So when we go into Adams County, that was our first stop. You know, I'm seeing everybody who my cousin had dealt with. I see everybody. I'm like, it's like a family reunion type of deal. But everybody's facial expressions when they see me, they like, not you, cuzzo, you didn't do nothing. Not you. So I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Because I'm supposed to be at work at that time too. So long story short, you know, when the feds, when they come for you, that means that they have something. You know, the feds, they got a 98.2% conviction rate, meaning that out of 100 cases that they have, out of 100 cases that they go to trial, they're going to win 98 of them, because those who say, don't tell, you don't talk to the police, you don't do that, these is OG gangsters too that I'm talking about. These are the first niggas that go into the police with information. Nobody would have served any time because it was a conspiracy case, meaning it was called ghost dope. It did not exist. They did not catch anybody with anything. And it's all those OGs who was on that first indictment, the Rolling 30s, Eastside Crip indictment, over 71 co-defendants, they were the ones telling. For what? You know, the person who, my older cousin, he's locked up. They had hit him with a CCE charge. That's a continuing a criminal enterprise. That's kingpin status. He was at the top of the indictment. The person who he was getting his bricks, the person who he was getting his kits from, you know what I mean? His whole bricks, he was buying them by the bricks. I was helping him break down the bricks in big old gumbo pots. The person who he was getting his bricks from told on him. How is the person who was above you, you know, because it wasn't like my cousin had poppy seeds in the backyard growing his own coke or heroin or anything like that. Somebody had to provide it, and the Mexicans that he was getting it from, who was getting paid more than getting paid more than him, they ended up telling on him. But the crazy part is, you know, me and my older cousin, we were cellmates. I ended up violating my bond. I was the only one on the whole indictment who had got a bond. Mind you, I was still in school and I was still working with youth biz. The only one on the whole indictment that got a bond. I had violated my bond because my sister had passed in 2007. You know, to rewind, my older sister and my older cousin during the summer of violence in 1993, both of them was in a house that was riddled with bullets from a drive-by. My older cousin got shot in the shoulder, and my sister, she had got shot in the head when she was pregnant with her second child. You know, my grandma, she wasn't able to keep any of my kids, any of my sister's babies. So the state, they ended up getting them. And to this day, I haven't seen my niece since she was about 7 years old, and she's 29. And I haven't seen my nephew since he was 5 months, and he's 27. You know, I don't know what they will look like. I don't know how to go about getting them. I've tried, you know, people, they tell me, have you Googled, did you go on YouTube, did you do this, that, and the third? And I appreciate y'all. You know, I truly do appreciate when folks say that shit, but at the same time, I look at them dumb as fuck. Like, do you truly think I haven't done that? You know what I mean? So it's you know, that hurts my heart every day just because of the fact I have a niece and a nephew out there that don't know that they have a relative out there, uncle, who is actively always looking and thinking about them, and who has reached the stop. Like, they won't give me no information because I'm not their legal guardian. I'm not their biological parent, you know, and they aged out the system. So, you know, that's another topic. But going back to Club Fed, you know, if y'all been paying attention, I don't know if y'all heard me say anything about me getting in any kind of trouble as a juvenile, you know, any kind of trouble as a youth, no, nothing. I didn't. I got away with a lot. I didn't do much. But my older cousin and I, we were cellies. And the crazy part is, out of a 5-day business week, my cousin, he had to go to court about 4 days out of a 5-day business week. Mind you, we're cellies. So every day he go to court, he come back with tears in his eyes and paperwork. I'm reading the paperwork that's saying, this is who the government have ready to testify against you in case if you go to court, in case if you go to trial. And this is somebody who he's paid a car note for, paid rent for, paid their kids to go to school, paid the whole nine. You know, this is somebody who he truly looked out, and you know, this is a good heart. You know what I mean? By the time my cousin and myself took our deals, because that's what it came down to. You must take a deal. By the time we took our deal, my older cousin had a box full of paperwork. And I'm not talking about a little bitty box. I'm talking about a box that holds paperwork. He had a box full of paperwork with people ready to testify against him in case if he went to trial. He couldn't go to trial. He's telling me, he's prepping me. He said, "Cuzzo, all right, when you go take your deal, all right, tell him this, and then, oh yeah, tell him this, and tell him I had you do this. I'm like, Cuzzo, I don't know nothing. You told me. The least you know, the better. I don't know nothing. So when I took my deal, you know, this is how it went. It had a big old round table. It was the prosecutor, it was 2 agents, it was my public pretender, and it was myself. You know, they said if you don't have a paid lawyer, you don't go to trial. If you don't have a paid lawyer, you don't go to trial. So the prosecutor, you know, I never forget him. He's from Southside Chicago, black dude, bald head. He told me, you know what I mean? That was his breaking the ice. I'm from the Southside Chicago. I know what it's like to grow up without a dad and blah, blah, blah. That was his spiel. Then he saw I wasn't biting, so he said, look, I'm gonna get straight to it. He said, we know exactly what you was doing. We know you was working with youth, and we know you was in school. What can you tell us about Mr. McCoy? Mind you, we were the last 2 to take our deals. They didn't need anything from me. All right, they needed absolutely nothing from me. I looked at my public pretender. He said, I said, all right, he's dark skinned, bald head, wear glasses, about 6'6", 280 pounds. His mom and my mom were twins. We slept in the same bed when we was younger. What do you mean? That is my blood cousin. He said, look, Mr. Douglas, don't play with us. You know exactly what we want. He pulled out a tape recorder, a tape player underneath the table and pressed play. It was my older cousin on the phone. He said, Cuzzo. I said, what's up? He said, I need you to go downstairs, grab a black bag that's in a vent, count that money and call me back. And he hung up. He had already told me ahead of time that if he called me, do not call him back on that same phone. I had 3 phones. One phone that he was paying for, I had the church phone that he was paying for, and I had my own phone that I was paying for. They didn't have the conversation when I had called him back. Prosecutor pressed stop on that player. He asked me how much money was in that bag. Me, I was green to the law. But at the same time, I realized that they didn't have me with any kind of drug, anything. So I'm seeing that they trying to connect the amount of money that he can buy for the quantity. You know what I mean? I put those 2 together. So I said, oh man, I think that's probably about 100 ones. You know what I mean? It took me a minute to count it because it was all ones. But yeah, I think that's about $100. We go to the next phone call. He said, Cuzzo. I said, what's up? He said, where you at? I said, I'm at the crib. He said, okay, I need you to go in the kitchen, look on that top shelf, grab that brown bag, count that, and call me back. Hung up. The first time, mind you, I'm gonna rewind it. In that black bag, when I had counted that money, it took me 8 hours to count the money. All right, and when I called him back and told him how much money was in that bag, he asked me if I double counted. I said no. He said, okay, double count, call me back. I had counted again. That time, you know, I was getting pretty good at counting money. That's before we had got a money counter. That time, it took me 6 hours, all right? I called him back and I told him. He said, okay, cool. That time when I count the money in the brown bag, it only took me 45 minutes, all right? Again, prosecutor pressed stop. He asked me how much money was in that bag. I told him it was probably about 50, 51s. You know, it's real, I don't know, I can't remember. We went through about seven phone calls and my response was just like that. By the end, the prosecutor, he said, look, Mr. Douglas, none of this is gonna help. None of this is gonna help you. They offered me 40 months, but I ended up getting sentenced to 87 months as a first-time offender. As a first time, they sentenced me to 87 months. They sentenced me to the highest end on that scale. So I ended up doing 44 of those months locked up. Mind you, part of my time when I was in prison, 2 of the years, you know, I spent fighting my case. So before they actually designated me, I told you I was cellies with my cousin. Prison was fun. You know, I didn't have to worry about any commissary, anything that wasn't on commissary that I wanted. He had the means to get it. You know, prison, I was in prison with my favorite cousin. You know, I ain't have no kids to worry about. So prison was fun until I got designated. You know, they sent me to Texas. You know, it was a low camp in Texas where I did the remainder of my time. I had no family out there. I had no nothing. I mean, it wasn't like I had anybody sending me letters or money or anyway. So, you know, prison, that's when it got hard. you know, I had to start, you know, in order for me to create some kind of stream of money for myself, what I started doing was I started cleaning dudes' cells. I wake up early in the morning, get everything out of the room while they sleep, quiet, spread down, mop it, put everything in there back and neatly. In prison, that's like one of the worst things that you can do is clean up another nigga's filth. You know, and that's what I was doing because I needed to buy me some more stuff on commissary. I didn't have family sending me no money. So by the time I had did that, and then I had bought some ingredients to make cookies. I started making cookies when I was in prison, and the cookies began selling like hotcakes. Stamps, mailing stamps was used as currency. So eventually I became the bookman on the yard, which means if anybody needed to get any stamps, to gamble away stamps, whatever it was, they would come to me for the stamps. You know, that's how fast them cookies were selling. It was crazy because to this day, I cannot remember how those cookies were selling. Let me see. I got out of prison February 22nd, 2010. I started working at Youth Biz again, and I started working at Project Voice. The thing is, I went out and I looked for another job. I tried to get another job working somewhere else, you know, but the thing is, it didn't dawn on me that I had a felony until, you know, I realized I wasn't getting no phone call backs. Nobody was calling me back saying, you're hired. So, you know, they say people who go to prison 9 times out of 10, they get out and they do the exact same thing that they did to get locked up. And in my case, it is exactly true. I went right back to working with youth and I went right back to school. That time I had got into UCD and I had got my first, I had got a 4.0 there. And, you know, I have about 89 college credits, but I have no motivation to finish because I see how closely related the prison system is to the education system. You know, and at the end, you got to figure out a way to beat the system from the inside. And I don't know if we have enough time within our lifetime to do that because everything was in place strategically. So I got out, I had my first kid, I had met Omni. I don't know if y'all see her, big old head right there. But I had met Omni when I was in school at Manual High School. I had the biggest crush on her. It's one of them creepy crushes, you know, but I got out, you know, I had more confidence. I was shining and everything. So I made my move, you know, and yeah, so we started having some babies fast, huh, Ma? You know what I mean? Look at how she out there looking. We started having babies fast. When I got with Omni too, I already knew that with her, it didn't just come Omni. You know, I knew that I had a package deal that came with Omni. And that package deal came at the age of a 7-year-old little girl, you know, and I had met Oujaa when she was 7 years old. And I knew immediately off the rip, you know, it wasn't going to be one of them easy, you know, I'm gonna like you off the rip type of deal. It took time and it's still taking time, you know, and one of the things that I'm standing on is what, you know, Don had taught me. You know, she's mine, period. Hey, girl. All right. I had my first son June 25th, 2011. You know, that's my king. He was born. My youngest son was born April 29th, 2015. Got married and then had my baby girl. No, we got married before Omari. I'm tripping. Yeah, we got married in 2013, had the wedding in 2014, had Omari 2015, had Kamari in 2016. And you know, I feel like number one, even you know, with relationships, it take time and take effort. But outside of the relationship, you know, people that it really irks me when people start talking bad about those who they decided to lay down with and have unprotected sex with. You know, we gotta do better when it comes to you know, building those relationships and manifesting something that's even bigger than love. Because at the end of the day, you know, it's bigger than love. What's up, Tank? I see you had a question. And I see we over time too. What's up?
Okay, so with getting to know the woman that you married, what do you mean it came with a package? Like, was it she had kids, right?
Yes, sir. She had Oujaa.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember that. What was the how did you build the relation with Oujaa and also her mother? If that makes sense.
You know, for one, I already knew in the back of my head that that it wasn't gonna be easy type of deal, because for one, with every new boyfriend who my mom brought in, I was never willing or accepting of that man. So just that attitude alone, already knew that energy was coming back to me. So one thing that I did early in the beginning was I took something personal. You know what I mean? And it was, you know, the actions of a young adolescent teen that that, you know, I can't let, you know, things like that come in between. And what I mean by that, you can't take anything personal. You know, whether it's good, whether it's bad, you can't take it personal. You know, so I also, one thing that even when you get married, you realize too that well, I've realized that there's two, you know what I mean? You can't expect, I don't know how to say this, just know, I don't know how to say it, so I won't say it. All right. What other questions y'all got? Any other questions?
I remember one day you told us a phone call you had with Oujaa. Can you talk about that? When she was young.
I don't know what phone call you talking about.
It was the one when you asked her a question. You know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what phone call you talking about, man. I have no idea what you talking about. What phone call you talking about, Oujaa?
He's talking about the one where I first met you, and then you was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm sitting on the porch because I was at my grandma's house. And then I'm like, what are you doing? He was like, oh, I'm gonna take a shower. And then you started to tell me what, you know, a shower is, as if I didn't know what a shower was at that age. But I'm pretty sure that's the one he's talking about.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, you know, doing my parenting thing, man. You know what I mean? Teaching them what showers is, you know, how to work the nozzles and stuff, man. Any other questions? Any other questions, comments? Compliments, concerns?
It was great hearing your story, Phil.
Man, right on, right on. Thank you, thank you.
Phillip, I just want to say, I want to ask you, what is keeping you motivated to keep doing and continue the things that you're doing? Not only for the youth's sake, but even for, you know, the elder generation and that.
You know, I would honestly answer that with you know, my grandmother, she instilled a good heart in me. You know, money has never been my drive, my motivating factor. It's not been the reason why I get up. Ever since I was working at Youth Biz, you know, from when I was a youth, I've always had that means to want to see the community come up with me. You know what I mean? I'm not the one to look and see those not doing better and just point at them and see they're not doing better. If there's something that I can offer in terms of a tool or anything, you know, that's not going to put me in a bad situation, then I'll do it. But I've also noticed too, within, you know, my own situation, and why it didn't work out, you know, was I put my own family on the back burner, servicing the community. You know what I mean? I'm out there doing community work and putting on this spotlight and putting on this facade that, you know what I mean, that that everything in my life is put together. And that's not the facade, that's not the image that I want to put out to the community at all. You know, again, if there's a way that, you know, and again, it's just something that my grandmother instilled in me, just want to see the people as a whole do better, you know. That answer your question?
All right. Is that? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, man. Appreciate you telling your story.
I got one. Somebody had a question in here. Hindsight is 2020. What advice would you give your teenage self? To be honest with you, I couldn't stand, like right now, Phillip, grown self, cannot stand young Phillip, teenage, elementary, middle school. I cannot stand little Phillip. You know what I mean? In terms of advice that I would give him is, be a leader, nigga. Stop following. You know, and that was one thing that I had bad, was I was a follower. You know, it took me a minute to realize my own leadership potential. So stand on your own too. Don't expect nothing from nobody, period. You know, go out and get it yourself and be a leader. All right.
All right. Is that everything? We good?
I think we're good.
All right, man. Like I was saying, appreciate your time. Appreciate your story. I appreciate everyone coming out, listening. Thank you, guys. And that is today's AOST, Phillip Douglas, founder of MACM.
Right on. Hey, I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Yep, you too.
Peace. Oh, we got to do our snaps.
Don't go.
Yeah, go ahead. You got it.
All right, you know, at the end of everything, we snap after 3. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, we got our snaps in. Peace out.